Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast with your hosts, Aaron
and Daniel.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, we still got it.
We still got it. We're a little rusty. Don't worry. So we just had the first episode of Pest World, the intro to Pest World 2024 in Denver. If you do not know what Pest World is, it would be a great time to push pause and go listen to the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
If you already know what it is, still push pause and go listen to the first episode because we talk about why we took a little break.
Mm-hmm.
So still a very good episode to go listen to. But we're talking about day one, Pest World. We did it a little bit different. If you go back to the past Pest Worlds that we've run, that we've typically thrown out about 4 or 5 episodes, maybe even 6. This one's going to be a little bit shorter because we showed up on a different day. So we cut the time that we were in Pest World down a little bit, really cutting out the fat. There's not much to do day 1 and day 2, unless you're part of the associations or you're flying from very far away and you need to get there a day before. But this is day 1 for us. We showed up in Denver. We flew in that morning. So we had to get up nice and early to get there and to get to really the expo. And from there, Aaron, I want you to take it away. Tell us kind of what awesome experiences we had getting to Pest World day 1.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I've been to Colorado a long time ago when I was younger, so actually haven't been to Denver, so it was new for me, and like you said, we did a little bit differently this year. We actually focused more on the expo itself, but actually getting to the venue and getting to it was the Gaylord Rocky Mountain Resort.
Yeah.
And, as we were, leaving the huge Denver airport, you see this like massive, like mansion type looking building like far away. And as we're getting closer, it's like, oh, that's the Pest World, So it was a beautiful venue, like awesome views. You have like the Rocky Mountains in the background. But, like I said, we just jumped straight in and, we got there a little bit later than normal, cut the fat, and we just walked the expo in about 10 minutes and realized, all right, let's do that again, because we kind of rushed and it was a little bit smaller of an expo than I thought it would be compared to Boston and Hawaii, the 2 that I've been to. A lot smaller of a floor plan. Obviously, the content and some of the experiences were a lot more. I got a lot more out of this expo, which we'll kind of dive into why this episode. But I mean, it was beautiful venue. It was great setup, and it was awesome first day.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, besides some of the hiccups, we had some fun stuff going on. We show up to the expo, we park, we're ready to go, and Aaron gets a phone call. And I know our guy's gonna listen, so it's okay. Listen, he can comment if he wants to. But he fell off a ladder. So the very first day, minutes of walking into this expo, we were about to go grab some food. We were hungry, or at least I was hungry. And boom, a guy falls off of a ladder. Don't worry, he's not banged up that bad. He made out of it. He made out alive. So we're good.
Yeah.
But it was just dealing with that headache. And it's always fun. I mean, that's kind of what you get as you step away from a smaller business. For everyone who's going to go, just be prepared, for all the stuff. Make sure that your guys are just doing regular route things and there's no crazy weather and they're not getting on ladders.
Yeah.
Step away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was fun. That was very interesting to start it. But this expo, we kind of got into a few things that I'm glad I stopped and talked to a few people that I would have just written off in the beginning. First things first, I'll start with kind of stopping and talking to the guys about the automation trapping, not the ATP. It's the actual wireless trapping sensors that they have. So we actually had a guest on. We kind of got into it a little bit, which was good. about why he thought it was the best thing out there. And I said, yeah, right. Prove it to me. Right. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I still had that attitude when I was walking up to these guys. It was Catchmaster. And the automated traps it's a good idea, but they finally dialed it in. And I was waiting forever for this to happen, and they finally figured it out. And what they did a little bit different for those who are skeptical with it and are moving away or kind of just wrote it off like I did, it may be something to go back and consider because we're definitely considering it now. What they've changed with the trapping system that is wireless that will tell you that it caught a rodent or that there's rodents inside a bait station eating off of the bait. What they did is the program that they've created is you can either buy this stuff in bulk and not have a monitoring fee. So pretty much your monitoring fee is $1 a month, but you're going to be paying $70 for a snap trap, right? Uh, but your monitoring fee is going to be nothing on it. Or you go the opposite way and you'll pay more on the monitoring side and you'll pay $1 for the snap trap,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you're going to be paying $20 for monitoring or $30 for monitoring on a monthly basis. So you can kind of, and that's not that simple. Okay. So everyone listening and thinking like, oh, wow, that's expensive. I'd be paying $360 for a year for Snapchat. No, that's not that. Don't quote me on the pricing side of it. I didn't get into details with them. You have to reach out directly and figure that out. Um, but now how they have it and what they kind of push now is they've stepped away with pushing onto residential accounts, which it's like, finally, are you guys?
Duh.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a big duh from the beginning when they brought it up. I'm like, there's no homeowner that's going to let me come in and put this equipment in their house and charge them thousands of dollars for some electronic wireless traps and allow me to pull up to their front yard, scan their house, and then drive off. Yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
out of your freaking mind if there's a homeowner who's going to allow you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so now finally they've taken that switch and they've said, okay, look, we're gonna focus on the commercial buildings. And it's like, yes, there we go, guys. This is what I'm talking about. But even with commercial, you have to be careful because what commercial property is going to allow you to charge them once again thousands and thousands of dollars to set up some traps that you're not even going to go and physically check.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I would say, hey, you're not going to walk my facility that normally took you 3 hours and now it's only taking you 30 minutes. Well, I want a discount. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
pass that on to me. Now you don't have any labor. He's not breaking his back. He's not hurting his knees. I want a discount.
Mm-hmm.
So how they structured it with that is it makes it so much cheaper on the PMP, but it also allows you to cut back time. So me and Aaron talked about it, and this is just kind of our brainstorming of what we would kind of do with it and how we would handle it. Is as you start to grow, instead of hiring a new tech and the expense that comes from a new technician, it may not be bad to go to these wireless trap, the wireless trapping, where it is now you can just go in and instead of having the guy there, we have a facility I can think of out in an area. It's like a metal shop type, thing. But that would be one I would say, boom, that's where we want to put them
Mm-hmm.
because the guy now doesn't have to drive all the way around to the other side. We would have everything there and we would know exactly what's going on. And we
Mm-hmm.
could easily go and scan the whole building, be done, and walk away within 10 minutes. And we could still charge the same.
Yeah.
And then that would reduce the amount of time. Uh, but that's really where it would be, right? So you're looking at warehouses. You couldn't do it at an apartment complex. You could do it for your bait stations, maybe outside, but you couldn't do it from there. Storage units would be, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that's where I thought that would work perfect because then you could physically put in traps inside of every single storage unit. And as you're walking the facility, it would start to scan everything for you and you would know which one you need to open. So you know which one you would need to come back and check.
Mm-hmm.
And we could say, hey, look, storage unit 101. We need to come back and check this one because it says that there was a rodent inside that trap.
Yeah.
So it would be so much better on that side of things, but you'd have to get in if it's already a storage unit that's already set. You're not getting in brand new with nobody in it, nobody renting yet. It'd be a little bit of work to get all of your equipment into every single unit. And then their monitoring fee, you would pass that on to the company, right?
Mhm.
But that was one of those things that I looked at. I know you looked at another, machine. If you want to dive into that for this expo.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in California, we have, or I assume most places too, we're dealing with a lot of burrowing rodents. So what we were using in the past was the Burrow RX machine, which was a carbon monoxide, because it was basically just a little engine with a hose that you would, bury into the ground and, smoke out, whether it was gophers or moles, or, I mean, sometimes voles if the, tunneling was deep enough, but not really. But it was kind of cool because the new system that they came out with was carbon dioxide. And it was actually really interesting on how he broke it down and how the setup was, explaining on how it actually can have a lot more of getting more results, and how, in terms of how it actually goes down into the burrows and it works its way up, and you're not, sitting there with a loud engine cranking it up and, moving the ground and scaring everything. Um, Funny enough, the guy actually came into the office about 2 weeks prior. And when we walked by, we kind of did one of those like, wait, I know you, and I walked over to him and I was like, oh, dude, like, this is awesome. And that was just one of the few things that we're going to be directly implementing, and that's what's cool. And, we'll go into some of the other softwares and some of the other products that we're going to be bringing on the business side. But I feel like this year, compared to the last couple of years, there were some good ideas, some good things, and we had some like that's what I'm looking for, like kickoff meetings or like introduction things where they'd come and do a demo, and it was like, when we get to this point, or then it would make sense. But this was one of the things where it's like, no, like, let's do this. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, with everything that kind of went on and us going through the expo, we got pulled in so many different directions. Um, Going back to the first episode of, the connections that you build, it's so important that you build those connections and you keep going to these expos. If you go to one and then you say, okay, I'm going to go to every other one, you kind of lose that traction, right? You
Mm-hmm.
may get different people. We saw people from Netrodyne that we met from Hawaii. There was another guy from Safety Summit, Gary with Cinch, who helped us out. Then John Woodward from Forshaw, the Pest Posse. I mean, there were so many people that we knew. We've even had on to the podcast. And now you're going back and you're seeing these people and they have connections, right? They're going to
Mm-hmm.
all these shows, they're going to all these expos. And what's cool is you start to build more than just a professional relationship, it starts to become a friendship. And as you're signing up with some of these people, they're looking out for your best interest, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of happened. And we kind of got pulled into a few other things because Gary from Cinch invited us to, an evening, at the resort that they were at, where there was some golf simulators and things like that. And they had finger food there. And, they got us into a company called Smarter Launch.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up going to their booth at a later day, but that was one of those things that he brought us into, got us in contact with. And then after talking to those guys, they said, oh, hey, you should go check out WiseTag. This is another company that and so they
Mm-hmm.
all start to intertwine and we understand it's all sales, right? It's their sales program. They're trying to sell us. And I get that.
Of
But
course.
these programs are now getting to the point to where it's helping you build that business. And so with Smarter Launch, I don't know if anyone's been to a dealership recently, but dealerships now have a program where they send you a quote of everything that they saw in your vehicle. So they go through, and I mean, they're looking at the dumbest crap they can find. There's a paint chip here, and this is how much it's going to cost. Do you want us to fix it or not? I mean, they're going through everything, but they're trying to maximize the dollar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how much money they can get from you. And Smarter Launch did the same thing, but for pest control. And so now what you can do is your salesmen that are going out, you can give them a preset form that you create and you can lock that they will fill out and send to the customer. And then the customer can approve each line item or deny some line items, right? And you can lock which ones you want them to see and or which ones they can deny and which ones they can't deny. Um, and so integrating that into your program, we're going to do it. So this isn't a plug for them. They probably owe us, but this isn't a plug for them. But it was a good idea. And we see a ton of potential of what we're doing and where we can use it. And that kind of brings us into the Wise Tack too, which is finally something I've been looking for forever. And I just never found a practical plug and play use until now.
Mm-hmm.
What's WiseTech, Aaron?
WiseTech's finance company.
Yep. And what do they do and how do they work it? You know this better than I do because you got to deal with this in previous jobs. So
Yeah. So the cool thing about Smarter Launch is they partner with this company, WiseTech. Essentially, it's a finance company, and which is obviously with Smarter Launch, it's obviously going to allow customers to, take that to bite that on like larger ticket items because they can finance it. And we'll go back to some of the details, but from what I remember, WiseTag takes on basically all the liability. I think it's 3.9%, and we get paid in 48 hours.
Yes.
And coming from, in a perspective when I'm training guys for rodent inspections, commercial, German cockroach treatments, commercial bed bug treatments, like these massive, massive ticket items where in the past, some salespeople would feel like they'd kind of get a little gun shy to even present those numbers. Now it's a lot more, lucrative for the customer because instead of looking at it as like, oh, okay, to pest proof my home, it's going to be $3,500. It's like, yes, it will. But the great thing is now you can do it, over a set certain of months. And the great thing on our end is we're always wondering, the technicians don't get paid labor and commission until we get paid. Now on this end, there is that surcharge, that little bit extra up front of that 3.9. But at the end of the day, we're getting our money in 48 hours and we're done. We don't have to worry about collections. We don't have to worry about, sending notices, sending statements, calling, emailing. It's done. It's like once that part is done, then we do what we need to do on the pest control side and they take care of the finances, which is beautiful.
Yeah. And really that's kind of the game changer for us is, and I'm sure everybody listening is how many people have you gone to, and I'm selling their service for them, right? But it's how many people have you gone to and you give them this high ticket item and they're like, oh, I can't afford that. Now there was a company, I heard a guy, he mentioned that he takes on a bigger percentage up front. So he'll say, hey, look, it's 0% interest. And you can do that with them. So if you give your customer 0% interest, you're just going to pay upwards of 10% or 15% of the actual, the amount that they're going to finance. Now, the good thing is you're just paying that up front. They get hit with 0% interest, which is nice for them. But if they don't pay, you still made your 85%, right? So you still made all your money. So you still got the sell. You're just taking a pay cut. You're essentially giving them a discount for doing, finance, which good for him. I'm glad it works. For me, it's like, nah, that's got to be on them. I don't really care. Yeah, let's just pass that on to them. That's their interest rate, their credit, all that. But what's cool is they can fill out the app and they can get it done within 3 minutes. And I'd probably say 3 to 10 minutes, because everyone says 3 minutes if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. The combination of those software services and the equipment that we found that we can now replace instead of carrying, a massive machine that weighs freaking 150 pounds or 200 pounds with a 5-gallon gas, can in the back of the truck. And you're just asking for liability, people hurting themselves. You got to connect it up to a hitch in the back. It's just a mess, right? And so now with this new system, what you saw with everything that we're adding on, we're making everything a lot easier across the board. And even another thing that we saw, which was really cool, is we got to go through this expo and you'll get some, I don't know if they focus on just like the shell or the setup in the back of the truck. I don't know if they sell the truck and the setup complete. I don't know. I don't get into that with them because if you don't know what to do on the electronic side or the equipment side, that's really nice that they just do it for you. Downfall is if it still breaks down, you're screwed because you don't know how to fix it.
Hmm.
Um, but they also are going to charge you a premium because they're building your truck. So your $30,000 truck that you normally could just buy brand new with a $1,500 shell and a tank and the little stuff that goes into it, that may come out to $35,000 total.
Hmm.
They're probably going to charge you 45,000.
Mm.
Right. So they're going to up it, but it was good to see what they've done with the shell in the back and how they kind of, makeshift it to a Maverick because that's what they had there. And how they put the tank up into the back. And they actually had a slender tank, which was pretty cool. That was up against the cab with the SureFlow pump. I don't like them, but how Pump Tech's going, we may have to go somewhere else.
Sorry, pump tech.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate, um but it's really cool to see that as you're going through that expo. The next thing is kind of what I wanted to dive into is more pick your brain, Aaron, because every time I've gone as, hey, I'm the owner. I'm looking to improve and better my business as much as I can. uh, in the past, you came on as, kind of the sales in the office and then slowly as a technician. So you got different perspectives, but you never came on as the owner. You never went through it as the owner. What was the difference from past shows to this show?
Night and day. Night and day. And what I mean by that is first one was just like eyes wide. I was just so like it was good overwhelmed because I was going through these software systems and these new products, and I was like, dude, Daniel, this would be awesome if we did this, and this would be so cool. And check this out, like the guys would love, and I was just going through all this stuff, and and this year, like now when I'm looking at it, understanding the finances more, understanding like how much it actually costs, and like the upfront costs of running a business. And I felt like I was in a completely different seat, because in the past when we were walking through it together, I'd listen in on some conversations, pick some brains of people, get some ideas, take some notes. And now it was like, no, this is stupid. I'm not bringing this into the business. Like, like don't talk to me. Or it was like, hey, show me what you got. Like, this is actually something that we're interested in and we're interested in it right now. So it was a really cool shift. And, you brought it up. I didn't even realize that the first time I went, I was just office. Second time I was just technician. And now it's like a whole new perspective. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. But that different perspectives really helps you understand, because I've gone in the past with a technician, right? And when I've gone in the past with just the tech, he's looking at the dumbest crap and wants everything that he can think of, but he's not thinking, really what's the expense and what's that going to cause, if we
Hmm.
bring that in and what ripple would that really, they had a web head that spun and it was electronic and it was a cool idea, but now you're talking about a piece of equipment that's making a technician's life a little bit easier because he doesn't have to spin the pole. But now you have to have batteries or you have to have a charger. Or what happens when that entire section breaks off of the pole
Hmm.
because it bends? And so
Hmm.
if that actually goes, if those clips go bad, well, now it's not going to hold itself because you can get it at a different angle and it'll just spin. And
Hmm.
so you look at some of those things, and I know if a tech went through there, they would be like, that's what I need. I have to.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, and then it's gonna break in 3 months, and then what? I have to buy
Hmm.
another one for $150 for you? So those are kind of the good perspectives that you get as you're going through it now, and where you're like, "That's cool, but no."
Yeah. Like, no. Yeah.
Like, I would try it out for me, you know,
Hmm.
really putting it in the hands of every single tech, yeah, it's a pipe dream.
Hmm.
It's not going to happen, but and that's kind of the cool thing as you're walking through this is you're now seeing it from that perspective of, no, we also have to look and see we can actually do on a bigger scale and what makes sense as a singular owner and running a route. That would make perfect sense.
Exactly.
So, and then the good thing is from that is you do get everybody starting to push you in those different directions. Pest Posse was another one. They had a booth out there, and they had a class, and we'll get that in. We'll talk about that on day 2 because that's when they had their class. But they also sent me in a direction to go look at some eco-friendly products that have
Mm-hmm.
no smell, which was kind of cool. And they actually they produce right in Sacramento, Rockland.
Mm-hmm.
So not far from us. So it was really cool to see that local guys there and what they're coming out with and the new products and, some of the competitive products going up against, some of the big names, Essentria, IC Pro, Ecovia. God, what is the company that makes those? What are they called?
It's not Syngenta, is it? It's
Um, I can't even remember their name.
yeah.
I'll think of it, but
Mm-hmm.
something labs, they make some of the eco-friendly products. But what's cool is those products all have a smell and this one doesn't. So you can still stay on your eco-friendly side and really push that, but you have no smell. And those are some of the things that you wouldn't know unless you had those connections and people were pushing you in that direction. And not only are those the connections we have and they're pushing them, but it's because they've actually done it. They used it. They were
Mm-hmm.
using the product, and they got to test it out for months on end. And now they're saying, hey, you should probably take a look at this. It actually works, which was cool, which was cool. Anything else at the expo that you saw, Aaron, through day 1?
Um, no, I like just going through the expo too because it does kind of open your eyes. And as we've been implementing and trying to get more efficient, smarter, offer more add-on services, more recurring services, even though some of the booths and some of the salespeople of the booths weren't great, the content and kind of what they had to offer, you can still take a lot from it. Obviously we had, or at least for me, this expo was probably the most engaging one for me. Maybe it was because we had the traction of going past 3 years. We have those connections there, but no, this was an awesome expo.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, we had some other one. I forgot one of the other pieces of equipment that we were looking at is one of the lights that you can hang up outside that will catch all the flying insects. And
Mm-hmm.
so they had kind of 2 different sizes. I don't remember the company. Who made that? Was it
It was
Catchmaster?
it was Catchmaster because it was in the same booth.
Oh yeah, okay. So it wasn't the
Mm-hmm.
same. Yeah. And so there's some cool things that you can add and some small stuff into your services like that you could plug into a back patio. It covers so many hundreds of square feet or whatever it was, the bigger one. The light bulb, we pulled some information with that. You can service it and clean it out. And there's so many little things that you can add on that would really boost the value of your service and your company. And you don't know those things until you actually go and you spend time. And that is when, we say it so often. And I don't think people really understand when you say, hey, you need to work on the business, not in the business. In the business is you're a technician. In
Mm-hmm.
the business is you're doing the day to day. In the business, you're running, you're building the schedule, you're making the routes, you're dealing with the technicians, you're reprimanding, you're hiring, you're firing, you're doing all of that, right? You're collecting, you're so focused on that. You don't really get to spend time on your services and what those look like and how to improve it. And going to these expos and going to whatever expo, it doesn't even have to be Pest World, honestly. We don't get anything from them. We just
Mm-hmm.
go and it's been a great experience. And so we've talked about it every year. Um, but it, going and actually pulling yourself away from the business allows you to start to work on the business. You start
Mm-hmm.
to take a further step back and say, okay, what is going to get me to the next level? What are the changes that I can make that are going to help create more in the future? We may not see it now because there's some lag time in between your changes and what it's going to actually create, but you get to see that. You get to pull that back and you get to actually rest your mind from all the craziness that's going on and calm down and say, holy crap, we could implement this here and there and do this and do that. And I mean, that's where you start to pull so much back and you see such exponential growth year after year, is when you get to be able to do those things. And
Mhm.
this is one of those experiences. Wildlife Expo was another big one for me. When I went and did that, I was like, holy crap, what we can pull away from this and what we can create and how much more we can do that companies aren't even doing in our area because they don't even know that this stuff exists. And that's the other thing that you get to pull yourself into expos, talking to these guys. A lot of these sales reps, and I don't know if you knew this, Aaron, but a lot of them have been in the industry for 30, 40 years. They've been technicians. Some
Mhm.
of them at one point maybe even owned a pest control company. Obviously not a very successful one because they don't own it anymore, but
Still, they went through it.
I had to throw that out there. I had to dog them.
It's okay.
But that's what it is, right? So they have all this experience. They have so many different connections, and some of them have worked for dozens of different companies, and they've kind of just jumped, around. And so they know so many different things, and they can start helping you out and kind of opening up your mind on where to focus and where to actually implement some of these things to create bigger changes, which is cool,
Mhm.
you know? Any other inputs from you, Aaron? I mean, on day one of Pest World?
No, I mean, there were classes, we actually decided to take a different route. There were some good classes we wanted to take, but the majority of the ones we dove into were going to be on day 4 and 5, or 3, 4, 4 and 5. Yeah, which we're going to go over in some other episodes as well.
Yeah.
So, we spent the first day really just soaking in as much as we could from the expo because it was so good and because the connections were great.
Mhm.
The only other thing that we didn't touch up on was we went to the B&G booth and kind of grilling the guys there, and they were cool about it, because we were jamming them up a little bit about some of the honest feedback on their automatic, the pressurizing and all that.
Yep.
But no, it was a great day one, and obviously we're gonna get into the class heavy days in the next couple episodes.
Yeah, and I'll go over some of. I'm glad that you did mention that. I'll just hurry and run through, and then I don't think there's anything more we can add to this. But I wanted to run through some of the classes on day one.
Hmm.
Day one of classes. This is technically day three of Pest World, but day one of classes. So when we say day one, it's actually when the meat, the meat and potatoes of
Hmm.
Pest World is going on. So here's kind of the first section of classes: designing a rat-proof city, uh, behind termite control, protecting public health at home and abroad, vector management from the front lines, authorized person. Oh, this one's a different one. They had their authorized personnel, which I don't know why they do this. Um, it really separates what they're trying. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're trying to be exclusive, but I saw some of those in there. Even day two had it where it was like authorized personnel only. And I just thought that was kind of stupid. But state of the merger and acquisition market and the pest control industry. So if you're looking to sell, that would have been a great one there, or you're looking to even buy, it would be a great one. Creating a culture of career development and ownership. Top three challenges pest professionals face today. Conversation with your peers and pests. So that was sponsored. Thinking big. Best practices for structural commodity fumigations. So if you're a fumigation company, termite company, they have their specific classes. Increasing profitability of bed bug remediation. Uh, oh, they have the ACE exam. I didn't even know that. Oh, that's why John was talking about that. So they have the ACE exam there as well, which was cool. I didn't see that. I must have skimmed through that. Um, and then we'll just hit some of the last classes. See another one: tracking termites, bed bugs, and new developments in control. Pathways to success through multi-generational ownership, a business owner's guide to building a legacy. CEO forum, culture trumps everything. So those are kind of those classes that you're looking at. You get a mix of your fumigation. They went a little bit heavier on termite, and they will change that per area. I've noticed
Hmm.
Boston was very heavy rats and cockroaches, where you go into Florida was really heavy in mosquitoes and termites. Denver, I felt they actually added in fumigation, which I never really see in past ones, but more termites and then management. They didn't really go much into any other insect. I mean, it was really kind of animal control, your bats. There was one ant class, I think. So they kind of stepped away from a lot of the insects and focused more on animal and then termite fumigation and then some of the management stuff.
Mhm.
So that is really your day one and our day one of what we went through with the expo and some of those classes involved with day one of Pest World.
Yeah. So it was awesome. And obviously, you guys listen in who went through the expo and you had the same or different experiences. Please, we want to hear your feedback. We're doing this to obviously connect with other owners, operators, anybody in the pest control industry. And Pest World is a great place to do so. So like we said, we're going to be diving into the actual content of the classes and going through some of the notes that Daniel and I both took in those classes and, how we benefited from it and how we're going to implement it in the business. But for you guys who were at Pest World, enjoyed the expo, hated it, we'd love to hear your feedback on it. Again, we do this on the side for free because we enjoy it and we love connecting with you guys. So, it's been a while, but send in those questions. You want to be a guest, come on the show. If you're an exhibitor listening, you want to be on the show, we're reaching out as well. If we dogged your booth or we missed your booth, let us know. Obviously, you guys know how to get a hold of us, dnapestpodcast.com. We have our Instagram, we have our YouTube, and our Facebook group. But thank you again for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.